Okay, here we go. All right, so welcome everybody. This is our new channel, Dice and Drinks. My name is Matt, if you don't know me. I'm going to be the GM for a new game of Stars Without Number that we're going to be running. We're actually going to stream this game on this channel. Um, Probably the actual campaign will get kicked off somewhere in early February. We have some world building that we're going to work our way through here in early January. Need to get my players on board. Right now we're set up, we're going to have 4 players. They have various levels of tabletop experience. One player has played a few different editions of D&D. We have a couple players that have exclusively played 5e. I have exclusively run 5e and played 5e. And then we have another player who has basically played a couple games of 5e, but it's been a while and doesn't. It's definitely the least experienced player out of everybody, but should be good. I think it's going to be a good group of players. And really excited to dig into the sci-fi world here in Stars Without Number. But today, kind of the goal of what we're going to get into is some world building, specifically faction creation. So if you're not familiar with Stars Without Number, the faction turn is kind of a GM tool that helps make the sandbox world believable. Creates a little bit of a, I guess, believability, and allows the GM to make the world seem like it's living. Factions compete against each other. They have goals and objectives, and there's actually mechanics in place to make those objectives happen. So, without further ado, we'll get into it here. So basically, we are starting from scratch here. We have a name for our sector. We're going to be operating in Toméa Epsilon. But other than that, we don't have much. I have a few ideas for things that I want to happen, and some of the factions that I want there to be, but really starting at the ground level here. So come along for the ride and see what we can get into here. So we'll go ahead and switch over to Legend Keeper. So the tool set that I'm going to be working in here is Legend Keeper. I use this to run my other 5e game. It's a somewhat of an early access platform here for Patreon members, but it kind of combines the best of both worlds of what I was looking for. I ran out of Notion for a while, and I really liked the ease of editing, all the note taking, linking between pages, being able to see backlinks from pages to other pages. But the one thing it was missing for me was the maps were the big one. So when I went looking for a map solution, I fell into World Anvil and ran some stuff out of there for a while. But it always just seemed a little clunky. The software's older, and has a lot of ideas and is pretty prescriptive on how you should do things. And then just the performance, if you add in a big map with a lot of markers, it really dragged. So I found Legend Keeper, which kind of combines those two. So basically, you have a wiki style here that's similar to Notion. It doesn't quite have the rich feature set that Notion has in terms of some of the database elements and linking things that way. But it's worked really well, and it's under active development, and they're making a lot of great changes since I picked it up probably 6 months ago. But let's get into it. So the first thing we have here is our factions page. I went ahead and pulled over a factions template from, basically there's a separate project called Templalandia that has a bunch of templates from the user community. So I pulled that over and kind of mashed up a couple of those into what we have here. So this is kind of what we'll be filling out as we go through these today. But the main thing I want to probably focus on is this prompts page. Just has some key questions, which kind of will give us the top level overview of what we want to do with these factions. And then we'll go back in and fill in more details as we go. But getting started here, let's see. We'll go to our factions page. The first thing I want to do here is probably just list out some of the factions that we want. I'm just going to do a bulleted list for now. If I can make the editor actually work for me. Okay. So ideally, I'm probably going to be shooting for somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 factions here. And some of these are going to be big ones. Some of them are going to be a little bit smaller. And then various kind of expertise or functions in the world. So the main first one that we're going to get into here is the Anarchy Commonwealth. So this is our big government in the sector. Basically, we're sticking with kind of the general timeline of Stars Without Number and some of the lore in the universe there. So all of these groups of civilizations spread out from Earth using jump gates, using sci-tech technology to get around. They spread out. And then after the scream, basically we're all cut off from each other. And then where we drop into the game is basically that recovering period. So after that dark age, after the scream, basically sectors are building their way back up, building the technology back up again. So the Anarchy Commonwealth is the largest power in the sector. They're the main government, kind of the republic. So after that, basically that's going to entail obviously the government side of it, the military side of it. There's probably going to be some sub factions underneath there. Not exactly sure how we're going to run that yet, but that's the first part there. The second one is outside of the Commonwealth military. So the Commonwealth basically is going to have a navy, the Marines, which is attached to the navy for all intents and purposes. The way I see it is that individual systems may have armies or some kind of militia, but not really at the sector-wide level. There is another military organization that is separate from the Commonwealth military. They still owe their allegiance to the Commonwealth, but it's just a little bit different. They're kind of the special forces, and kind of my inspiration for this is out of the Galaxy's Edge novels. So in there's basically the Legion, which is kind of the separate military arm of the Republic, and kind of almost butts heads with the Republic in a lot of ways. And that's kind of what I want here, is basically that source of tension between the Commonwealth and this other branch of the military, which is focused on tradition, and basically doing the right thing, kind of almost a righteousness about them. So this is going to be the make sure I spell this right. Hattori. Yeah, so the Hattori. So the Hattori is basically ripping off from ancient Greece mythology, or not mythology, but from ancient Greece, the Macedonians, Alexander the Great, his companion Calvary. That was kind of the other name for his companion Calvary, is the Hattori. So elite fighting force. A lot of the Commonwealth side of things draws from a little bit of Greek influence, especially in terms of naming and stuff like that. A lot of this stuff I don't have names for yet, but some of them I did a little pre-work on. So basically, we're gonna have the Hattori, which is the elite military force. Branching out a little bit from there, there's going to be some kind of spy organization that is aligned with the Commonwealth, and I see them also kind of at that little bit of divide, kind of how the Terry are. So basically, yes, they're with the Commonwealth, but they're kind of operate on their own outside of the bounds of, basically just with less oversight than the actual Commonwealth proper. Yeah, so we'll get into some further details on that. We have another one. This is gonna be basically our big media conglomerate. Spelling is not my strong suit, so be doing a lot of spell check today. But okay, so the Revel Media Conglomerate. This is going to be the big overarching. We own the airways, we own the network, all of the communication between systems in the sector. Obviously, a lot of power comes with that. This kind of came out of some pre-game Slack conversations with a couple of my players. Just almost some role play before we even got started with any of this. So that's where that comes from. All right. So those are the big ones that I had prepared. I'm trying, just kind of going to go through and think of some other ones that we want in here. Basically, there are going to be aliens in my game. The way I see it is they are on a similar technological power level with the Commonwealth, within 2 or 3 steps there. There is an opportunity for tension there. Not really sure how it's going to play out, but basically I think that I want 3 main alien factions. So almost like a coalition. So like the faction may actually be made up of multiple aliens, but basically they band together, and all of the alien factions are definitely on the fringes of the sector. The Commonwealth has a tight hold on the center of our sector that we're going to be operating in Toméa Epsilon. But the aliens are on the outside. There may be skirmishes with some of the Commonwealth planets that are on the edge of the Commonwealth's reach. It also provides some opportunities for infiltration into the aliens, that type of stuff. And that's the other thing. I'm not really sure which way the players want to play this game yet. Basically, I'm going to give them some options. I think one of the things I want to do is have them start out as basically just enlisted military, whether it's Navy, Marines, or whatever. Definitely not Hattori. But start out in that role of, hey, this is the end of your enlistment. What do you want to do from here? So some things that I've thought of are, obviously, if they want that kind of military style campaign with a lot of conflict and fighting and stuff, being recruited into the Hattori makes a lot of sense there. If they want more of a espionage type game, then moving to our spy organization makes sense there, kind of that paramilitary type feel. And then obviously there's the standard go off, get your own ship, do your own thing, whether it's bounty hunting, whether it's merc work, or basically whatever they want to do at that point. Set up a trade organization, however they want to handle that. I'm like 80% sure that's the way they're going to lean. But I'm not positive there. So kind of my plan is that we're going to play through some scenarios in early January, get them some experience with the mechanics of the game. And then after that session, we'll have a character creation session and talk through. Basically, I'll give them the lore dump, get them a lot of the background of the universe, and then figure out what kind of game they want to play from there. And then that'll influence my prep going forward. And then in February, we'll kick off and basically let them loose in the universe and see what happens. But anyways, so getting back to our factions here. So we're going to have Alien Faction number 1, Alien Faction number 2, and Alien Faction number 3. Okay. I also want 2 major criminal factions. Obviously more than one is good because it allows some conflict between the two, allows the players to play one against the other, and kind of see where that goes. Same idea with the shipbuilding and technology side of things. I'm torn on whether I want separate factions for different types of technology or whether it's basically the shipbuilders are the weapons makers, are the technology guys, all of that. I'm almost leaning towards okay, for now let's go with shipbuilders and see how many we have, and then we can kind of pare this down once we get through some more of them. And I don't want to end up with 20 factions, so we may do some consolidation here at some point. And I'm basically going with 2 for most things just to create that opportunity for conflict between them. Like I said, we may consolidate in some places. I do think that we want one organization that is basically controls all of food production. I almost want to say like raw materials. Yeah, basically a raw material monopoly. So this is going to be food, this is going to be mining, this is going to be any kind of natural resource. They basically have the monopoly on all farming, mining, forestry, any of that type of stuff. I want to have a bounty hunter guild. I think just one of those. And basically the way that I would run that is, obviously this is similar to Mandalorian. So either you operate within the guild, sanction jobs, kind of that union aspect of it, or you operate outside of the guild, obviously money can be better. You don't have to give your cut to the guild, all of that, but then you have the consequences that come with that. Let's see. How many does that get us up to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. I think we need a couple religious groups. So basically we're going to have the alien loving religion and the pro-human religion. Okay, so those two kind of butt heads against each other. I see basically the idea that there's at least going to be one faction of aliens that are hostile towards the Commonwealth in an overt way. And probably the one religion has a really good relationship with one of the other alien factions that's more compatible with the Commonwealth's values. But at the same time sees the value of all life and basically is looking for a way that we can all live in harmony and all that. And then you have the pro-human religion that is basically the aliens are the heathens, they have no souls, blah 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 blah. So those two are going to butt heads against each other. There's should be some kind of opposition to the Commonwealth. I see this starting out as basically a shadow opposition. It's not well known in the Commonwealth. There may be some people either in the spy organization or the criminal factions that know about this other group that are amassing power, that will potentially try to make a run at taking over the Commonwealth at some point. But the players definitely will not know anything about this group starting out. So this is the Antagonist, the Rebellion, the kind of uprising faction. And probably more dictatorship, fascist than the Commonwealth is. I see the Commonwealth as kind of the group that everyone loves to hate because it's the status quo. There probably is a lot of corruption since they've been in power for so long. And everyone loves to hate them, but this is definitely a situation of grass is probably not greener on the other side. So this is the something Dominion. That is basically amassing power, trying to probably get their hands on all kinds of side tech and maltech and use that to amass power and move against the Commonwealth. All right. Let's run through these. Seems like there's something I'm forgetting here that I wanted to include. I think that gives us at least a good start here. Let's start building a few of these out and see where we get from there. All right, so we're just gonna pull in our template, our faction template, and this is gonna be the Anarchy Commonwealth. So these are the big boys. Okay. Sweet. Like I said, we'll come back and fill in a lot of these details as we go. It may actually be more in like session prep where we get into some of this stuff. But for now, let's focus on the prompts page just to get some stuff down and see where we land. Okay, so who are they? So they're the main government of the sector. That's probably good for now. There's a lot of questions here, so we'll just burn through them and then we can come back and add detail if we want. What are they about? Control and expansion. The way I see it is, it's almost that imperial, almost imperialistic, where they're basically trying to expand influence. They're trying to gather more systems under the Commonwealth. I think that there's actually probably some alien civilizations that are part of the Commonwealth outside of the other factions. And one of the factions may actually fall under the Commonwealth in some way. But basically, their main goal here is let's bring more systems into the Commonwealth. Let's gather our resources. If we can harvest any natural resources that are in their system, it makes the rest of us stronger. But basically, gather up as much as we can, hold it close. So bringing more civilizations and resources under the Commonwealth. Probably another thing there that'll help make that make a little more sense is I also see the fact that not all sectors that are predominantly human have been brought back under the Commonwealth. I think they have a relatively strong hold on the center part of the sector. But as you expand out, there's either civilizations that have not rediscovered spike drives that don't have the ability to travel between sectors. They may have space travel within their sector, so they may be like TL3 that just don't know about the other places that are out there. So as more spike drive routes, rudders are discovered, and people come into those civilizations, evaluate the resources, try to bring them under the Commonwealth umbrella. For the most part, I think the humans probably band together pretty easily. Obviously, the Commonwealth offers protection, offers opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have. So they probably fall under there pretty easily. Some of the other alien systems probably are a little more leery of the humans, but they probably still try to gather them under the Commonwealth umbrella, especially if they have some kind of resource that they see as being worthwhile. So that's kind of where that expand influence, exert control, all that comes into play. They reside. So right now, the sector is not built out at all. There's one system that I started with at the middle. Um, that's the Tyros System. That's kind of where the Commonwealth started. They were probably the first ones in the sector to rediscover spike drives and make their way out, allowing them to gather more resources, increasing their power. So that's kind of the center of our sector. It's the Tyros System. They're perceived. Like I said, people love to hate them. They serve a purpose. And most systems need them to continue to grow. Basically, like most things, the planets in the systems can provide for a certain amount of life. At some point, you need technology, you need resources from other systems, you need something to continue the growth of your system to support your population. So the systems that have less technology, so TL3 and below systems, probably need the Commonwealth and don't really have a lot of options. And then systems on the edge of Commonwealth space need them for protection. But they always get their payment, whether that's taxes, whether that's resources, people. They obviously don't just get for free. So that's where the people love to hate them comes in. I think the Hattori, Terry, I think they have become soft. Maybe not soft. I think they think there is too much corruption and nepotism. And we'll get into some more of that, but I think some of the nepotism has started to bleed into the Hattori because the Commonwealth still technically holds power over the Hattori. Like if you've read the Galaxy's Edge novels at all, basically the idea of like appointed officers inside of the Hattori that weren't necessarily recruited for their deeds or whatnot, but were placed there by the Commonwealth. So yeah, but we'll get into more of that with when we talk about the Hattori. What makes them special? They were... Let's call this rediscover. FTL via spike drives. Use tech superiority to use that tech superiority to build up resources and power. Okay, cool. Why do they exist? And government of the sector. Was there history? How they really took cultural. humanity. Basically humanity's comeback. They were they're smart / lucky after the screen. Where can it be found? We already said the Tyros System. What are the members like? What unites them? What makes them special? So if we're talking about like the actual it's like when you don't know how to spell, you're trying to misspell it the most phonetic way possible so the spell check will pick it up, and it's not working. Okay, let's just Google it. Bureaucratic. Okay, sweet. Okay, so they are bureaucratic. Sorry, formatting a little bit. Okay. Bureaucratic, corrupt. For the most part, when I'm talking about the Commonwealth, I'm thinking like the government side of things more than anything. I know that it encompasses the military side of things. But when people are thinking about it, more than likely they're thinking about the government aspects of it. They kind of see the military as an extension of that. So bureaucratic, corrupt. Always out for number one. So I think within the organization too, it's not just at the organization level, but it's also the members of the organization. There's probably a lot of backstabbing, a lot of dark, shady deals, that type of stuff. Their reputation, see above. How are they recognizable? What distinguishes them from others? Anything? It's probably some kind of symbology. Yeah, come back to this. Symbology, emblem, something. Symbiology? That does not seem right. Symbology? That's how we fix that problem. Emblem, something. Okay. What's their infrastructure like? Vast. They have manufacturing, and manufacturing throughout the sector. They control trade. Only true military. Outside. Planet scale. Or alien. Okay. Rank and social structure. So I think there is a president at the top. I think there is some kind of House of Representatives. And we may change the names on some of these titles. But basically, a House of Representatives. So each planet under the Commonwealth sends a representative to the Tyros System to basically be the representation of the Commonwealth. There's obviously a lot more. There's all the naval ranks, Marines fall under the Navy. Diplomats, etc. How's the organization sustain itself? By bringing new systems under the Commonwealth. Obviously, it's a space setting. There's a ton of natural resources to be had. In terms of that, they don't really have to worry too much once you get to that. Once you reach that baseline technology level where you can travel to different systems, you can travel to the asteroids, you can mine from the asteroids. Food is probably a bigger issue than any other natural resource. So that's maybe one area where it's important for them to get footholds in other systems. But I see it as like metals, precious resources are probably abundant. And like I said, food is probably a bigger issue. But either way, whether it's expanding power, whether it's gathering resources, whatnot, bringing new systems under the Commonwealth is how they facilitate that. Other organizations or cultural powers. Tenuous relationship. Some aliens. Just a bad relationship with one of the other groups. I think there's actually a weird dynamic between the Commonwealth and the religious organizations as well. I think they try to distance themselves from the religious organizations, but I think the religious organizations probably have a lot of the general populace behind them. So that's interesting. I'm just gonna put it in there for now. Populous is okay. Cool. Yeah. So now we're getting into some of the rank stuff. This is probably a little more towards some of the military aspects of it, but let's just talk government for now. So the president is kind of the be-all, end-all guy. Then we have the representatives. We have the diplomats. And probably the judiciary. So this isn't really like ranks of individual people here. This is just kind of pecking order of the organization, let's say. Quirks does the organization have? Not sure on that. We'll come back to that. Symbol of the organization. We also said we'd come back to that. I was one join the organization. Joinings at the planet system scale. Advance in the organization. Basically popularity. And home system power. What advantages does one get for being a member of this organization? At the highest levels, basically insider trading, riches, favors, etc. Okay, cool. The Anarchy Commonwealth. All right. One down. Right now, we're basically doing all fictional positioning. We're not really talking game mechanics at all. Like I said, Starts Without Number has a whole mechanical system for running factions. Basically, each faction will get its own stat sheet. They'll have their HP, they'll have assets that all lend to the mechanics of the faction turn. But for now, we're just kind of doing the world building aspects of it, fictional positioning. We'll go from there. All right. Next one. Just go ahead and do the Hattori. Hattori. Faction template, factions. Okay. Create. Put our prompts. Who are they? They are the elite. Military arm of the Anarchy Commonwealth. They about honor, tradition, toughness, Um, I think they actually are outside of the Tyros system. Um, it's almost I almost see them as like a warrior cast. So basically, they probably go to this other system. That's where they do all their training. Um, their headquarters is there. Obviously, they're still very closely tied to the Commonwealth, but it's almost like that Spartan um, aspect where they like war is their culture, um, and they kind of go off on their own and probably live in some inhospitable place um, to basically breed that toughness. Um, so we'll just call it System XXX for now. We'll come back to it once we actually start building out the sector, and we can fill that in. How are they perceived? Badasses. Don't mess with them. I think that's good for now. For people that are outside of the Commonwealth, Grim Reapers. Um, these are the guys that come in the night and take people. They probably, for people that are opposed to the Commonwealth, they probably spread a lot of propaganda about the Hattori being this evil group of soldiers that come and destroy villages and kill women and take children and all of that stuff. But within the Commonwealth, they're looked up to as basically the toughest of the tough. Make some special, exceptional, military prowess. Why do they exist? Special operations for the Anarchy Commonwealth. I haven't really thought about their history too much. I'll probably come up with something here about at the start of the Commonwealth how there was probably some great president at the beginning of the Commonwealth that basically commissioned the Atari and they probably were used to win some battle that was really meaningful at the time. And then we're kind of elevated from there. So I'll put that down for now, and then we'll fill in the details there as needed. So say commissioned by great president at beginning of Commonwealth. Defended the Commonwealth from maybe it was I think it was actually a threat from within. Yeah, I like that. So there was probably some threat that was brewing within the Commonwealth that this great president saw was probably going to be the end of the Commonwealth. They weren't going to be able to make the advances that they needed to expand out. And the Hattori were put in place to be that defense. And then it kind of just grew from there. Where can they be found? System XXX. Which is their home, but Small units aboard Commonwealth Navy ships. Basically secret units on planets, etc. Where the members like Knight some tough as nails, Brotherhood. Yeah. Their reputation. We kind of talked about this above, but evil if opposed to Commonwealth. How are they recognizable? Horse emblem. I'll get into this a little more. Probably try to come up with something for what the actual emblem looks like. But this is kind of that callback to Alexander the Great's companion, Calvary. These are the horse soldiers, basically the heavy cavalry that comes in and fucks shit up. Infrastructure like top of the line weapons. But rely heavily on the Commonwealth Navy for transport, food, mundane resources. Ranks and social structure. We'll get to this down below. But basically, same as the other militaries, officers, and enlisted. So funded by the Commonwealth. Funded by the Commonwealth, but I almost want to have some way of them having their own way to sustain themselves. Maybe that's what they're striving for. Okay, yeah, let's put that for now. Striving to figure out a way to sustain themselves. Basically opposed to all forms of corruption, whether that's within the Commonwealth, other organizations. They just don't get along with that. All right. So if we're talking ranks here, let's actually... put that table. Boom. I'm just going to throw in a few examples here, and then we'll come back and detail this a little further. But this is going to mirror United States military pretty closely. So basically, we're going to have General 4, General 3, General 2. So basically, that's going to be your 1 to 4-star generals. Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel, Major, Captain, Lieutenant. On the enlisted side, just gonna go private. This can be spell sergeant, right? Sergeant. Need to look up some ranks here right quick. Army ranks. Here we go. Okay, hey, let's make this specialist. Corporal. Sergeant. Staff sergeant. Okay, cool. Yep, there we go. Sergeant, first class. This would be master. Master sergeant. Let's go sergeant. I keep spelling that. Major. Let's go to command. Sweet. All right. That gives us some ranks for officers. And enlisted. Boom. So I also think there's probably a civilian rank here. It's almost, so this is gonna be like secretary of the Hattori or whatever. And civilian leader appointed by the Commonwealth is Secretary of the Hattori. Okay. We may change that naming, but still gets across the general concept. Appointed by the House of Representatives. Not the president. This is a point of contention in the Commonwealth. Basically, the president used to do this, and now that he doesn't do it anymore, he or she does not do it anymore. It's a point of contention because whoever's appointed by the House of Representatives tends to be fall into that nepotism. Basically, they're appointed because it gains the House of Representatives something, especially whoever's in that majority power of the House of Representatives at the time. What quirks does the organization have? That one there is kind of a quirk, actually. Actually, let's just copy all this down to that line. Well, and bold, get rid of the italics. Sweet. Nope. What the heck did I just do there? Cover. And okay. Try that again. X. There we go. That's a little better. Sweet. Symbol of the organization. We talked about horse, soldier. Join the organization. May recruited out of Commonwealth military. Other option may be some kind of academy. I don't know if I'm going to leave this in or not, but there's a couple different ways I could see this going, but I can see it basically creating some kind of tension within the group. You have this one group that is recruited out of the Commonwealth military, they're experienced, versus this group that came through this academy. And I may actually leverage the academy as the way that the Commonwealth House of Representatives shoehorns people into the Hattori. It may be a newer development. Okay, I like that. How's one advancing the organization? Main service. Valor deeds. House intervention. Notoriety. So the people that are there, for the right reasons, get notoriety, honor, decent pay compared to standard military. The people that the House of Representatives are shoving through this new academy, get political clout. There may be some of that on the side of the honorable guys too, but for the most part, when the House is trying to shove people through this academy, get them into the Hattori, it's mostly for political clout. They can go back, become representatives of their system, and then owe something to the guys on the top. Sweet. We've made it our way through 2 factions. We're just burning this up, not really. That's cool though. All right, let's go back. All right. Spy organization. We need a name for a spy organization. This is another one from Galaxy's Edge novels. I love the name Nether Ops, but I'm not going to straight rip them off. I mean, I ripped off a lot of the Legion stuff for the Hattori, but at least we replaced those serial numbers after we filed them off. All right, spy organization names. I want it to almost be a little bit separate from the Commonwealth. I don't want it to be like Commonwealth internal security or anything like that. Because I don't want it to be like a super well-known spy organization. I want it to be more secretive, more. There's rumors about it, but no one knows that it actually really exists. Type deals. Shadow, something shadow maybe. Shadow web. Shadow. Dark cloud called. Sorry. Names are always the hardest part. So right now, yep. Wonder if I can pull this over and put it in this one. Yep, sweet. I can do that. All right. So right now I'm looking through Nebula Names, and I just want, like, some of these are the worst. Spare tire Nebula. Nebula. Uh, Southern Owl. I thought this may be a good place to look, but is not looking. Eye of Sauron Nebula. That's not bad. Phantom. Okay. Oh, that did not get me where I wanted to go. I do like Helix for one of the shipbuilders. Helix ships. Okay, cool. Let's go back. Oh, I didn't realize my screen's kind of cut off on part of that. You guys probably didn't even see what I was talking about there. Burn back out of here. Okay. Back in there. Sorry, just looking for some references that I can steal name stuff from. All right, I'm not finding anything right now. This is one I've tried to work on before, and I just do not love any of the names. But let's go ahead and just create a new page for them. Spy. And then we'll come back to the name. This is probably the last one we'll go through tonight, and then we'll do another session to keep going through some of these. All right, who are they? Spy arm of the Anarchy Commonwealth. What are they about? Information is power. Where they reside. So this is probably gonna be the same idea as the Hattori. They probably have their own system somewhere. Which is like the main headquarters, but obviously they're everywhere in the Commonwealth. How are they perceived? Existence is rumored, but not known for sure. Make some special. They know all the secrets. Both in the government and outside it. Why they exist, gather information for the Commonwealth. History. So I actually think this one probably. So how the Hattori was kind of a offshoot of one of the well-respected presidents of the Commonwealth created them in a time of need. I think that this spy organization was probably created by a less than reputable member of the House of Representatives to kind of serve his own purposes. And then it grew to the point where they had the information that served the Commonwealth well. So they just kind of were allowed to stick around and were basically absorbed at that point. So created by a questionable member of the House. Power increased as knowledge and tradecraft became in value. Became invaluable. Where can they be found? System XXX. Tyros. And then throughout the Commonwealth. Particularly in businesses. I think that a lot of their agents are probably planted inside of some of these other big corporations. Obviously, Revel's, the media conglomerate, is a huge one that they target, but also the shipbuilders, the raw resource monopoly. There's probably a lot of people in there too. What are the members like? Secretive, manipulating, charismatic, their reputation, ends justify the means. For the people that do know they exist. Like I said, most people may have heard whispers about this organization, but then there's obviously the people inside of the government that knows they exist. And they're very much ends justify the means, no questions asked. Where the Hattori kind of operates on honor and valor, these guys are definitely more utilitarian. Whatever it takes to get the job done, they're going to do it. Which has its place. How are they recognizable? Try to blend in as much as possible. Infrastructure. they're probably the richest of the government extensions. So in terms of like, you have the military, you have the Hattori. These guys are probably the richest. They have the most connections. They basically operate their own bank in terms of they don't rely. I think they probably get funding from the Commonwealth because they're not stupid, but that's not their only source of funding. So that's kind of where the Hattori's trying to get there. These guys are already there. A large network of operatives placed in powerful positions. Ranks and social structures. So this is basically like the officer agent relationship. And then we'll get into some of the higher ranks once we get down here. I'm just going to restate what I said before. So funded by the Commonwealth, but can sustain themselves on their business deals. How does it relate to other organizations? Serves the Commonwealth when it's convenient to do so. They're not to the point where they obviously don't have any kind of military might to move against the Commonwealth. But they are probably the most. They hold the most power over the Commonwealth in terms of there's not much the Commonwealth can do to them just because they have so much information about the various members and power positions in the Commonwealth that it would be suicide for any of those guys to make a move against this organization. So they almost have like the most freedom, even though they don't have that power to ever take over. So at the top, there's probably a director. Section chiefs. Case officers. And then agents who are not really part of the organization. So these are basically the people that they recruit in turn. Businessmen, basically anything. Quirks does the organization have? Like I said, don't have overt power to take control, but most immune to Commonwealth pressure. Symbol of the organization. TBD on that. Join the organization. So they do a lot of recruiting for the military. And universities. I would say. Basically, how you advance, turn in intel. The more you can pull out of somebody that's valuable to the organization or the Commonwealth or whoever, faster you move up the ranks. Advantages. This is actually kind of similar to the Commonwealth. Insider deals. Lucrative. That's about lucrative. Lucrative relationships. And then there's probably some that are in it for the honor. It's never like you have a whole organization of just shitty people. There's probably a lot of people in this organization that are here to preserve the Commonwealth, here to protect humanity, that type of thing. So those people get their honor, and the other stuff too. But sweet. Well, we made it through 3. Also, before I forget, there is one other organization that I want to add on here. We'll actually add them right under the spy organization because they ally pretty closely with the Commonwealth. So other inspiration for the campaign is the Ruins of the Galaxy novels. There's a lot of similarities there between those and the Galaxy's Edge novels, but in those novels there is the Order of the Luma, which is basically all of the psychics in that universe. So I started reading these books after I decided we were running Stars Without Number, and that basically aligns perfectly with the Stars Without Number universe. So we're going to have some kind of psychic organization, order. In those books, they fall under kind of the diplomatic side of things. So that may make sense here. So we'll probably just basically rip that off mostly. We may look at changing some of the history and some of the fictional positioning there. But for the most part, we're going to rip that one off. So that's another one. So what's that bring us up to total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So 17, that's a little more than I was wanting to run. We may end up consolidating 2 of these alien factions into one, but I really like the idea of there being 3 because I want basically one alien faction that's friendly to the Commonwealth, one alien faction that is mostly against the Commonwealth, and then one tenuous relationship where maybe they're friendly to the faction that's hostile to the Commonwealth, but at the same time, the Commonwealth is pressuring them to join. But yeah, and then the 2 criminal factions, because you have to have criminal factions that go against each other. I'm thinking these may be separate levels of, so one may be more like organized crime, and the other one is probably more pirate crime. Then we have our shipbuilders, the raw material, food, natural resources, bounty hunters, religions. The religions may end up dropping out, but not positive there. But yeah, that at least gets us going. Probably gonna wrap it up there for tonight. It's getting a little late. We're here on the East Coast, so it's about 1 a.m. But this has been good. Helped me get some ideas down on paper here. Like I said, we're going to use January to do a lot of the world building. We're going to handle character creation. We're probably not going to stream any of that stuff, but we will probably record it and make those available later. And then hopefully in February, we will start streaming the actual campaign for Toméa Epsilon. It'll be on the Dice and Drinks YouTube channel that this video is on. And we're looking forward to see you there. All right. Later.